All right, so EGR is connected to here. As you can see, if we press our finger and give it some RPMs, press it. All right, today's the day that we test out and try our EGR idle chop mod with electrical switch instead of our valve that we have. So right now we just have our valve set up here. We got our switch installed here. We need to redo this setup, make it better, but should be push button. That's our goal. So we need to finish wiring that up. As you can see right in here, we got to wire that up, connect it to this valve, and see if everything will work how we want it to work. All right, so we got the positive, negative ran. We still got to hook it up better, do everything a lot better, clean it up, connect it to the battery, and so forth. Now we need to connect all the correct wires from our switch. So we got all these wires, which I already went over a diagram, how we're gonna run it. So as long as it turns out how we want it, then everything will be great. So I got a full diagram I printed out, looked over the options, and we got it, I think, what we want. So now we just connect the wires to the correct wires. All right, so before we hook up the switch, we're gonna get our idle chop box ready. So this is our valve. This is our miniature box. The valve is gonna go mount right in here like this. So we are going to drill 2 holes, one for the wire, one for the actual item here. And yeah, so let's do that. Now we go make sure that we can get our EGR hose line right here through our newly drilled hole, which it's gonna be tight, which is good. We want it to be tight. So what we would do is put it through like this. Make sure there's no dust or anything in here when everything is fully set up, and then we should be able to connect it. So let's go get it, make sure we can connect it. So it's gonna go down like this. Let's go and feed it through more. We can manipulate it once it's in more. That way we can lift this up, slide this through like this, and it would be like that. And then of course the wire will run, we will drill a much smaller hole. It's gonna depend on where we mount the box. I need to see where I want to mount it. Probably just going to mount it like right over in here somewhere. Set it down in here, zip tie it in place. As you can see, our DOT is right there. So maybe we need to figure out another option. We will see. We will see. We could drop it down in here. Yeah, so we can actually drop it down in and have it right down in here. That will work. So now I need to see how we want to run the wire. If we're going to run it like this, and we need to hook it up to test it out. So these are going to our switch. So it's a little confusing. If you have any questions, just let me know. Yeah, so my handwriting sucks, but if you can pause the video, I know my handwriting really sucks. So pause the video and you can read it yourself. But my handwriting, I did this really quick and I can understand it, but some people might not understand it. So if you have any questions, just let me know. And that should wire it up and hook it up the way we want it. There's 4 different ways you could do this, which you can find it on their images. I just printed these out from the Amazon listing. Everything will be in the video description. So, okay, let's get started. All right, so let's recap. 3 black go with the together. So we're gonna go ahead and wire this off. You can do it more professional with crimps or heat sink shrinks. We're doing it with electrical tape for now because it's easier to remove if we did something wrong or we decide to rewire it another way. So that's why we're going with electrical tape for now. Electrical tape's great if you can get it taped off where there's no ends that ever connect or touch each other, but for now, temporarily, we're just doing it quickly so it's connected. We don't want any live wire. Okay, and another thing, make sure the wire, you're not going to be using the brown line. So this brown wire, well, I should say, if you're running it the same way I'm running it, you don't need the brown wire. So we're going to actually take that off because we don't want that line to be open. So as long as everything works out good the way we want to wire it, we don't need the brown wire at all. Again, you can wire it 4 different ways, so you can choose how you want it. All right, so since we got all the blacks connected, we're going to go ahead and do the positive wire. We're going to connect the positive now, and the positive of the battery just connects to the white wire. So we got our wire here. Let's make sure we see which one is which. So that one is the positive of the battery. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, take our positive of the battery, find our white wire. Yeah, I use my mouth for a lot of wire pulling apart. So there we go. We just wrap it, kind of create like a T and just keep twisting. If you are doing it electrical tape wise, just keep twisting each other. And then I always like to fold the ends over so they're not going to ever come off. And then we add some electrical tape to protect it even more and to keep it on. And I always start down far enough with electrical tape and I work my way in an upward fashion to cover every corner and inch of the exposed wires. Again, the most professional way is heat sink shrinks or crimping. This is a quicker way, especially if you're just testing out. So positive is on there. Now we're good to go. Now all we have left to do is connect the positive from the chop valve. So let's go ahead and find that. Where are you at? Right here. So we take our positive from the chop valve, right there. We take our positive from the switch, which would be right here, or I should say not the well, yeah, the red from the switch. So we got the 2 positive from the idle chop valve, positive from the reds from the switch, and we take let's see, chop, switch, and the blue, and then we take the blue wire here and we connect all 3, so the blue, the red, and the red. And if you're following me, hopefully it's not too confusing. Just take it and twist them, create like a T, just kind of twist around some, go around the whole thing like this. Make sure the wires are intertwined with each other. All right, now we go ahead, we take our electrical tape, go through that whole rodeo again. All right, so we should have wires connected, and separate. All right, that should be it. So this is how our switch and our box setup looks like. We got this line running to the EGR into our valve. Then we have, and I need to make sure that we have it connected to the right valve, which I think we do. And then we have a positive and negative wire running from down there. And everything in this box, that's gonna get closed with a lid. So it's gonna look like this. That goes down in there. So we'll get to that. But before we close the box up and put it down in, we gotta see if it works. So we gotta wire everything up and see if we got everything connected the way it should be. All right, so I just drilled another hole right here. So as the box goes down in, there's going to be a hole there. That's to allow, when we have the idle chop off and it's pulling in air here, that's to allow air to not pressurize, because that, you know, would then cause the chop to chop again. So this will allow you, once the box is closed and airtight, air can come right through that hole and give it the oxygen it needs for the EGR to function like normal. Now the only thing we need to do is go over here to our positive and negative and connect these to our battery. So for my batteries, I have a place where it can screw out, so I can just slide it down in. Same on the other side, I just got to open it up. So what I'll use is something like this, that I just slide it in between there. So whatever you can use. Everyone's battery connection is going to be a little different. I need to make sure these are thick enough, can handle and go down through. I think they are. Okay. All right, so the wire is on. I'm actually might have to reposition this. I don't know if the lid's going to be an issue here. No, okay, it should be all right. Okay, so it's connected. Let's go ahead and see what's going on. Okay, so if we press this button, it should turn red. All right, so I can see the red. So that means the idle chop's on. This should mean the idle chop's off. So we're gonna have to go ahead and start the car and see if the valve works like it's supposed to. Hopefully we didn't drain our battery. All right, make sure everything. All right, so EGR is connected to here. As you can see, if we press our finger, so we should be able to put the idle chop on. Let's go ahead and give it a little rev up while we press the button on. All right, first let's make sure it's idling perfectly fine with the idle chop sucking from that. Okay, it might be getting a little too much air since we have that open, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the original EGR filter. I can grab it down in here and place it on. So it will go on like this, like that. All right, let's go ahead, try this out. So why you need to press it, the gas a little bit when you press this at the same time, is it could stall it. At least that's how the other way was. So we're gonna try it without pressing the gas. Yeah, as you just saw, it stalled it. So we pressed it back. So we're gonna go ahead, give it some RPMs, press it. press it back to normal. So yeah, you have to give it some RPMs and kind of play with it a little bit. It's not stalled yet. Everything seems all right. Minus the fumes, which probably because we're just idling. So here's the difference. All right, so we got to tuck the wires up here, but we got it on. We got to clean this up a lot better. Yeah, so it's on, it's working. It shouldn't drain our battery since it only gives power to the light when it's on. So we'll get that done. Yeah, so I guess I can officially call this the idle chop box. Check it out. There we go. Pull this wire down through so it's not as clustered. So we'll go down here like this, pull it through, and we put everything underneath the carpet and floor mats, and we're good to go. That's the other project if you guys have missed. We're still working on that one. Still working on you know, since we relocated the battery, we need to tuck the wires better or find a piece that we could put in here to kind of block that. So yeah, there we go. Box, we could mount it somewhere, but it's probably not going to go anywhere. Right in there. So everything is working great. Let's go ahead and start it up with the idle chop on to start. I'm curious to see. So before, we used to be able to start the car up with the idle chop on the on position and it would start. I'm not sure this new method if it will. All right, so the idle is a little, I don't know if the idle chop sounds as good as before, and I wonder why. My valve setup seemed like it, well, let's go see. What do you think? Do you think it sounds as good as before? It's getting louder as the car is running now. Oh yeah, I think it does sound as good before. At first, when I first started it, maybe not. Oh yeah, it's getting louder too. Yeah, I'm happy. So it looks like we were able to start it up before. When it's warmed up, you can definitely smell the fumes more though. So it could be because we're just sitting right here blocked in. So everything seems to be fine. Nothing's really out of the ordinary like when we had it running before. We'll let the temp get higher. And see. Idle's fine. So the idle and everything seems good. Everything so far seems good. So holding steady, not fluctuating, not really messing with the shifting. You know, staying on the gas smoothly just keeps it smooth. It does. Now that's because we relocated our battery. Since we relocated the battery voltage is lower than before because it's got a longer distance to travel the current. So the idle chop, when the idle chop is on, it causes the battery to fluctuate more because it's basically surge, non-surge, surge, non-surge, surge, not, surge, not, surge, not. So obviously the idle chop with a lot of things puts wear and tear on your battery as well. So you definitely want a performance battery. So I'm noticing that, you know, it drops down, the volts drop fairly low, which is not really ideal. Definitely could smell the fumes more, so setting in traffic, you know, if someone has their windows down behind you, probably can smell the fumes more. Yeah, so with that being said, yeah, so fumes a little more. Idle, since, like I said, since we relocated the battery, the volts drop lower than I'd like. When it's idling, when you're driving, volts are right back to normal. It's not really that crazy hot day today, so the temp's it's not going up as hot as I thought it would. I want the fans to kick on, so I think if we drive a little bit here, the fans will kick on. But overall, everything seems all right. The temp is, you know, within the range that it normally is within, so it seems all right. Yeah, so power's there like normal, no issues with power loss or anything. RPMs kind of bounce around when we just coast like it normally has before. So none of that's different. It's normal fluctuation as we're slowly coming up. Everything seems to be like before, or maybe a little better in some areas. The fumes, I don't know. Like I don't know. You know, it's not like when you're driving. I think it's like when you are just sitting, the fumes kind of go up maybe. So yeah, temperature, I wanted to get to 199 or higher, but it's having a little trouble getting that high. I mean, maybe it's staying cooler this way. Now it is a cooler day, but even on a cooler day with the EGR chop, normally even a cooler day it would still. So we'll see. So far everything's performing good. Everything, yeah, performing just as good. There the temperature went up. There we go. That got our temperature going up a little bit. Now it's dropping back down. All right, so now we're going to turn the idle chop off and run it like normal. See how it shifts and everything. Before running it with our valve, it would hold the RPMs a little bit, then shift. I'm curious to see if it does the same thing. So we now got the idle chop off. One thing I'm going to have to try and remember is to turn the idle chop off every time because we don't want the battery to be drawn because of that red LED light. So yeah, let's see how it holds the gears and changes through the gears. Seems to be holding pretty well. Like not really causing any shift issues or anything like that. For some reason the exhaust sounds louder. I don't know, it just sounds louder. So yeah, I mean everything will come up to regular traffic and we'll see what regular traffic's all about, but with the idle chop off it's performing just as well, just as good. So it seems like it's performing yeah, like it should. You might ask yourself, well, why do I care? Well, you got to remember that we're running through a different, so it's not running like the regular EGR would run at normal. So it's still running through our line, going through our valve setup and coming out from that tip where we put that filter on. So it's running it a little different. That's why I'm testing both methods. So now let's go ahead and put the idle chop on as we're coasting, not giving it gas. Okay, so if our RPMs stay, if they're at 1,000 and we turn the idle chop on, it turns right on with no issues. We'll see. Man, I don't know why this exhaust sounds much louder. I don't know. Maybe it's in my head. I don't know. It just seems, I don't know. It just seems, yeah. So we put it back to normal now. I want to hear how it shifts down as we're coming up to a stop, a traffic light. So it holds a little RPM, but not bad. Nothing like it did before, actually. It held it more before. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Shift's good. Everything about it is good. Everything about it is I couldn't be happier. I really couldn't. Yeah, I really couldn't be happier. A cop. We weren't going fast, but our exhaust, we had it in third gear, and there was a cop down there. So I had it in first gear because I wanted to see how it would perform, and so the exhaust was loud. Like if you heard it, you would have probably thought we were going fast. But even though we weren't, I can't believe he didn't come, because I am really shocked. Because it seemed like we were like flooring it. Well, we were getting on it a little bit, but we weren't like going like crazy. I wanted to, but I didn't because I know cops sat there. But I was willing to let the exhaust wind out more. And yeah, the exhaust was loud. I can't believe it didn't come, but anyway, so we got it in regular mode now. Idle's great, everything's great about it. So I'm very happy. I'm overwhelmingly happy. Definitely, yeah, everything's working great. So no complaints here. No complaints here. We just gotta get back and clean stuff up, and we're good to go. So yeah, when it's the idle chop's on, there's fume smell. Now we had that before. I don't know if we had it as bad. Now maybe that's because we're letting it, it's just getting used to it. I don't know. It's not too bad though. It's only like when you're sitting for a little bit. And once we turn the idle chop off, it goes away completely. So the fume smell, what it basically is, it's pushing more raw fuel in the line, and you're smelling the fuel mixing, burning. It's burning the fuel hotter, and it's just burning that up, so you're smelling that. So with exhausts that are really like restricted, you can really smell a horrible smell, like just really egg smell. But for exhausts that aren't restricted, like mine, you smell more like a fuel burning smell, like a fuel smell. That's because we have no cats, free flow glass packs, 2.5-inch exhaust. So yeah, I'm happy with it. Holds the RPMs a little high like it did before, but that it doesn't like drop down suddenly like before as well. So overall, everything, I'm thrilled. So I couldn't be more happier with it, the setup and everything, and how it turned out with the push button and whatnot. So yeah, I'm thrilled, and everything seems to be functioning just like it should.